going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Opinionated Off Topic. Today I'm with Carlos Mojica, co-owner, co-founder of Opinionated Media. I'm Cam Theory. We're with Evelyn Jackson, local songwriter out of here, indie folk, Americana out of Austin, Texas, or the Bastrop area if you guys know, Austin area. But excited to have her on, excited to interview her. She reached out to the page, checked her out, and we got something scheduled because we've been needing guests, and also too we've been wanting to interview more women. So definitely was super excited to see someone doing something super cool, something super unique, and excited to learn more about you. So yeah,
cool.
What's because I saw when he sent me your page and I saw Americana. What is Americana?
All right, Americana is kind of like singer-songwriter-esque mixed with like a little bit of bluesy country vibes in it. You're going to hear a lot of twangy stuff going on, a lot of kind of like female singer-songwriters, I'd say, rule the genre, but there's a lot of like male Americana as well, and it's beautiful across the board, but a lot of focus on like really, really deeply written songs, lyrics, along with kind of a breakaway, definitely not country, but you're gonna, if you don't know what Americana is, you might kind of feel like it's in that genre.
I don't know if she's considered, but is Casey Musgrave? Is that like Americana?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Is very pop Americana.
Okay.
So like, yes, Americana, but like in such a pop way, and people who are really diehard like Americana fans are probably going to love more of like the backroots stuff. Like to name drop some, Brandi Carlile is a huge one right now. Currently, Sierra Farrell is dominating. She's so good at what she does, and she's one of them. Someone from here in the Austin area that made it kind of big, Taylor Ray is her name. Super great example of that too. Yeah,
I have to go check them out.
Yeah,
because when I saw it, I was like, "What's Americana?" I didn't know what it was, but if it's close enough to like, I guess Casey music, I know it's not Americana, but if it's close enough to that,
no, she's again very much Americana, just the pop version.
Yeah,
exactly.
I probably would like
more
it
of
because
like
I do like her music,
like the mainstream. I would say,
yeah, that's a better way to say it. Mainstream Americana, whereas there's a lot of backwoods stuff.
What is like Old Crow Medicine Show?
Oh, you got me.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is.
Oh, so they're the original people who made the song that Darius Rucker sings. That's like Wagon Wheel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a wagon wheel.
Yeah, they're the original people of that song.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's pretty country.
Yeah.
This was back a while ago, but it doesn't like if you hear them play it, it doesn't like sound country. That's why I asked.
Oh, I got you. Okay, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Cool.
But again, like you said, thank you coming on the show.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, ma'am, and thanks for making the drive because
Yeah.
for me that's a far drive.
Yeah, that's definitely far. Thank you. Yeah,
I don't like driving,
lot.
so for me that's a
That
far
means a lot.
drive.
Especially the time we shoot, you had to probably sit in some traffic.
No
Oh,
traffic.
really? Okay.
That's
There was
surprising.
like 200 feet of traffic. It was a beautiful day.
Oh, wow.
And I was listening to a song, so like doesn't matter.
Wow. Okay.
Just give us a little backstory where you came from to basically what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up all around Central Texas. I've lived in Austin, San Antonio, Waco, even down in Brownsville, South. And I grew up in a really big musical family. So I had 5 older brothers and sisters, and they all played instruments. My dad was a music major in college, loved music, always had music going on in the house. And then my mom was just a lover of music. She played the piano really well, sung. So I was just around it. I tell people sometimes it's like I had a soundtrack going on in the back of my childhood because there was music always playing, whether it was somebody playing instruments or playing music and all of that in the background. So I kind of took that into adulthood too. Like I listen to music all the time. If I have a free chance, something's on in the background, and it's mood oriented, right?
Definitely.
But as far as the musical aspect of it, me playing music personally really just started. I mean, from the time I was super young, I had older siblings like putting me in front of a piano and being like, try this, or like, hey, sing with me, or let's do that. And So I just grew up playing, singing. It wasn't until probably around high school that, I saw some of my siblings write songs and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to try that. And I think, 14 or 15, you probably start having all these emotions you don't even know how to handle anymore at that point. And so I started writing songs probably around that time. And then it was mostly just for myself. I mean, I didn't really consider myself anything that it was going to go anywhere, I guess, is the way to say that. But I did have this, back of my head dream of being I would love to be on stage and performing. I thought that it was a cool idea. I would be down with it. But nothing that I thought was going to go anywhere. So I went to college. Actually, I have a bachelor's of fine art degree in studio art.
Oh, wow.
So photography, graphic design, ceramics, painting, sculpture, all of that stuff is what I was doing in college. But in order to pay some of the bills, I was working as a waitress somewhere. And a musician was one of my patrons. I don't know. How do you say that? One of my patrons, one of my clients. He was there eating food. A regular. Yeah, that's a better way to say it. We kicked up a conversation about music, and I was like, oh yeah, I play a little music. I write some of my own songs. And he's like, you write your own songs? And in my head, I didn't think that was I was like, everyone writes songs.
Yeah. Oh, you thought that was normal?
Yeah. Wow. Everyone just plays music and writes songs. I have a few songs I've written. And he's like, come by the music studio. He owned a music studio.
Oh, that's cool.
He's like, come by the music studio and play some for me. I was like, all right, I can
Where was
do that.
this at? City
This
West?
was Waco.
In Waco?
Did you say you went to Baylor?
I went to Baylor.
Okay, gotcha.
For undergrad, I went to Baylor.
Nice.
So, this was in Waco. And I went to a little music store. It's called Lone Star Music Store. It's still there. Calvin Ross was his name. And he liked my stuff and put me in with this group called Girls and Guitars there in Waco.
Okay.
That was set up as a 1 hour solo set that you would do. And there was 3 or 4 different girls lined up and we would all go perform Friday and Saturday nights. And I ended up doing that for a majority of college and playing live. And by the end of it, I was like, oh no, I want to do this. I want to record and make music and all of that stuff. Now, skip ahead a little bit because that was 10-ish years ago. So in between that time, I did end up having a family. So I have 3 little kids.
Nice.
And I needed to do something that made more money than studio art.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So I went to go get my master's degree in nursing. So that is what I do. Currently now. I'm a emergency room nurse.
Okay.
So I did that. I actually went to UT for that, and
nice.
That was a really good time in life. And but I was still writing songs the whole time, but just based off things in my life. I'm just how you deal with emotions. And then I guess just recently, I don't know, I've been a nurse for a while now, and I thought, hey, I have time to circle back. My kids are a little bit older and I have more time on my hands and I have my career established, and now's the time. Let's get to it.
When you first became a nurse, how did you even have time to even write songs and just to always keep that this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do? Because you have 3 kids and kids aren't easy at all. And then you're a nurse and y'all work crazy long shifts, hours all the time.
Shifts.
Yes. Yeah. So by the time you get home, it's you're tired, but at the same time, you probably have to tend to your kids. They ain't seen you all day, or it's late, they need dinner. It's so how did you even find time to even want to write?
Well, I guess during those years, I don't think it's so much about finding time to want to write. I think anyone who writes I think will relate to this. When you feel something strongly and you are used to processing those emotions and writing them out in song form as a way of pushing yourself through the emotion to get to the other side of it, you have to write. You have to do it. It's not an option of I should make time for that. It's I'm going to go outside for a little bit with my guitar. I've got to go get this out. Like it's gotta come out. It's got to get written. It's got to get down on paper and onto the guitar.
I mean, I feel like that's how a lot of our people started, because we've had a lot of artists on. And a lot of them started around the same age, 15, 14, 16, somewhere around there. And it's just them putting their emotions onto the paper. I feel like is that kind of how like it always starts from everybody that you've met?
A lot of people, I would say the majority have similar stories. Either they, like, oh, we grew up in a musical family, or, I did musical theater, or like they have some strong musical influence that they were doing that kind of propelled them into that. But as far as the songwriting, okay, so there's a lot of musicians that don't write songs, and they're musicians that just, they gig out, or, they're great studio musicians, things like that, but not everyone writes their own songs. But from the actual singer-songwriter standpoint, I do feel like that would be an okay generalization to say. Like, I'm not going to assume everyone's story, but I have heard that story from a lot of people,
Yeah, no, it's super cool just to kind of hear like your background and stuff, and just obviously having that commitment too, like still being able, obviously it's probably very easy for you to be like, I have a family, I have a good job, like why go into this? Because it's a long-winded shot to try to really make it and stuff, and it's a grind every day just to work on something and put it out or whatever. But it shows your passion. It shows like you're really dedicated to doing something not only for yourself but for others. And I guess where were kind of like the struggles from like the transition phase, especially having to balance all that and kind of going back into it, because it sounds like you kind of put it to the side for a couple years. So was there like a big adjustment period when you
coming back into
it?
I would say definitely one of them being the struggle of, this is a personal struggle. I think maybe even almost to women, although I don't want to say that so much, but it's like I'm almost 30, and a lot of the people who are around me trying to start out are much younger. And I don't know if that's going to end up working as an advantage or disadvantage, just because I do have life experience and business experience and that sort of like, some sort of lots of like educational experiences and things that have helped me. But then also it's just that idea of being like, oh, you have to do something before you're 30, which I know it's like a made up thing. But that was kind of a struggle for me, just being like, can I actually do this now? Or have I started too late? Or that sort of a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But then one of the main ones is just my time and just prioritizing my time. There's things that I have to do. I have to go to my job for my full-time hours so that I can make my living, right? And then I have to commit time to my children. And then, so that means I had to make a really big choice of being like, how am I going to use my extra time? Am I going to be able to just like sit around and watch TV on my days off? Or am I going to be like grinding essentially, like trying to make this music thing work? And it turns out I love it enough to do the grinding, making it work.
I've always wondered this, because he listens to a lot of music. He's a big music guy. But I've always wondered this because you brought it up. I feel like there's not like a age where it's like, oh, you're too old to make music, or you're too old to like release an album. Or like when you retire, like
because they're like rappers don't retire.
Because like our favorite genre, well, my favorite, I guess, genre is like rap. But like there's some people that are like in their 40s, like they're still rapping while they're still making music, because like you digress the older you get. But I've always felt like there's like you're like just like it's not physical. You're not like doing anything to harm your body. You're just making music. So I feel like there's not like a time frame to like when you can start, or like how old you are to like when you can finish.
Yeah, I think too, for a lot of that, when you're like, at least I've never like tried to make music, but just kind of like looking at it, I feel like as you say, like you're older, you've experienced more. So kind of like your whole catalog, especially that since you're a songwriter too, you have a lot of stuff you can pull and take from. You've also seen a lot of stuff, even just like your own life experience, talking on stuff. And we've seen artists that we like Taylor Swift, like Drake, like J. Cole, like Jay-Z, as they're getting older, they're going to continue to make music, but based off of their life. And then that's when I think for the fans, unless you're like a true fan of that artist, you aren't just like, oh, I like a few songs. You'll like listen to them regardless because you like them. But also as we get older too, like we're going to evolve. Like the stuff that we were listening to when we were like in our early 20s, we might like that artist, but if they're still making that kind of music, we're probably going to turn that off and maybe like dive into some of these other people. Like for me lately, I've been listening to like a lot of older music, like Drake, J. Cole, like Kendrick, like just older music that I kind of resonated with when I was like younger, like in middle school or in high school times. But for me, I think it's like hitting a little different, especially like trying to build a business and stuff. Because a lot of them, they weren't as popping as they are now. But like the stuff they're talking about, like the working, the hours and stuff, it like resonates with me. And that's why I love music. It's like fine wine. Yeah. You can come back to it later. There might be something that you even have made yourself where you're like, I'm not liking that. And maybe you come back to it 3-4 years from now, like, okay, I can use that now. So to answer your question, I mean, I don't think there's too old of an age to start. I just think it's more so about the longevity and like kind of career path. Like if you are doing something a certain way and only one way, one hit wonder kind of deal, then like you will fizzle out. But if you are building from longevity, then I think like your music might not hit right away, but then like in the future, people might come back to it and be like, oh, okay, like I see what they were trying to do here. So
oh, that's the stuff from the beginning.
No,
exactly.
For sure. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I have Spotify, my personal playlists that go by year.
Okay.
So I make a new one at the beginning of each year, and then I start adding songs onto it.
Okay.
I take my absolute favorite songs that I know that I still need on there from the last year's playlist, and I put it onto the New Year's playlist, and then I just add and add and add. And it started, I mean, I want to say like 6 years ago now. Wow. So now you can go back and look at a catalog of the songs and be like, oh, this was my mood.
That's cool.
Like this was the jam dope. At this time.
I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to. I like that idea because there's songs that you're like, dang, this came out this year, and then it kind of takes you back to what you were doing, like when you were listening to that type of music. Yeah, that's super awesome. So I guess from now you're like making your music, you're back into making your music and stuff like that. Kind of take us through like what's like a process for you. Like how are you gonna, if you were gonna make a song, like kind of like
how it works?
How does it work?
Most of my songs start out super just me and my guitar at home. Generally, I usually write completely alone, and usually with a guitar. Sometimes I'll write on the piano, but typically always guitar. And mostly when the idea comes to me and I finally find the alone time to go sit and work it out. As far as the actual songwriting, it's very different dependent on the song and like what the content of the song is. If it's something very, very near and dear to my heart, I want to say that I tend to write those songs a little bit faster because it's something that I'm feeling so much all in the moment that it just kind of spills out. And then there's other songs that maybe they're a little more lighthearted or maybe I'm focusing less on the actual songwriting and more on the instrumentation part of it. And those might take a little more time to kind of hash out. Kind of the way that this single came together that I'm putting out was I had played it for myself. I really loved it. I didn't show to anyone, I think, for about 3 months. And then I was performing with one of my bands in Monterey, California, and we decided to play that one live. And like the first time we played it, the response was awesome.
That's good.
Like people loved it. And I was like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
That's great. And my bandmate really liked it too. Like it was one of the ones she really liked. Man, that's a good song. So I was like, oh, thank you. And so when I was thinking about, oh man, what am I going to put out as a single? I was like, you know what? That one's gotten a really good response. We're going to go for that. So as far as like putting it out, actually making the song, making the single, I kind of wanted it to be a little bit special. So I asked my brothers to do bass and drums on it.
Oh, wow.
And then I knew that I wanted like a specific feel for it to be a little bit Americana, a little bit country roots kind of. So I put, I asked another good friend to put some violin on it, a fiddle specifically. And so it actually came together as we only practiced one time. And then we just went into the studio and spent all day in the studio and laid it down. And
Nice.
Wow.
I played piano on it and rhythm guitar, vocals, harmonies.
Wow.
And then my brothers did bass and drums. And then John Laufenberg, he's a violinist, a fiddle player. I mean, musician. I shouldn't say just that. He plays all kinds of stuff. He came in and then added a little bit of extra guitar to it and some fiddle. And I think it took us 10 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's
crazy.
That's cool too, because it's a nice perspective to hear like how you're making songs as opposed to like when we like talk to rappers and stuff. Because it's more so like getting a beat, making a beat. Like the only person that's like similar to this is like our good friend Cayman, because he writes all his songs, he produces his own beats from scratch, engineers it, puts it all together. But hearing like this aspect of, okay, like you need all these different instruments. You had all these different people like do their portion of instruments, including yourself. Then you write the song. Then you have to take that sound and then go lay it down in a studio, get it mixed, mastered, engineered, and all that. So it's cool to hear the process, because it's like the original way music started, like with like the instruments to the actual track, and then all the like, especially like the song blows up, goes popular. All those people played up such a nice portion in like making that piece. So that's cool.
Yeah. Was the guitar the first instrument you learned to play?
I actually want to say it was the piano. Just because it took a while for my fingers to get big enough to like, play the guitar.
Yeah.
But I think there's a couple pictures on my Instagram of me sitting in front of the piano when I was like 2 years old and 3 years old. And I think I don't have any memory of not playing the piano.
Gotcha.
That was a backwards way to say that, but I just always...
You always played the piano.
I always feel like I played the piano. With the guitar, I can kind of remember maybe 6 or 7 or 8, somewhere around that time, picking up my brother's guitar and kind of being like, hey, show me like how to play that chord. Or,
My uncle was a big musician, and he always tried to like show us how to play stuff. But I regret not learning. I wish I learned how to play the guitar.
Yeah, never
too late.
late.
Yeah, the guitar and the drum, or the guitar and the piano, are what I would want to learn to play. But the drums and probably like an electric guitar is what I like, are my favorite.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna ask, like, so when you go into make, like, what song you're writing down, for rappers, they go and make a beat, they just like fill it, or like they get a beat, so that's how they write it to it. Like when you're writing a song, how do you know like how you want it to sound on it when you're playing the guitar? Do you just like string along? And
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Every way imaginable, but specifically, I would put it into 3 categories, so I'll just go over those really quickly. One of them I feel like is very much where I've written something in my head or on my notes or something like that, and then I know that I need to put music to it. And in that case, it's me just kind of playing around, finding what I want, and then trying to figure out how to fit those lyrics into it. The other one is if I've just been playing, like freestyling on my guitar, and I find something really, really cool that I love, and I'm like, hey, that needs to be something. So let me start writing. So I'll start thinking of things in my head and maybe come up with, a line or two. And if I really like it and it seems to stick, then I just kind of keep playing it in a loop, and I continue writing a little bit more and a little bit more until I have maybe what is a verse or 2. And then at that point, you kind of start thinking like, well, maybe we need to break this up. Let's add a bridge. Let's add a chorus. Or is that going to be the chorus? And now we need to write some verses to this. Or is this going to be kind of an abstract structure of song, and we're just going to keep that like it's going to be 4 verses long with no chorus and no bridge? That's when the creativity kind of starts coming in, and you just kind of go with it. But then there's probably the one that I do the most, where it's just like joint writing. It's just like I'm making it all up as I go. Like even where I'm gonna go on the guitar and what I'm gonna sing. And what I'll usually do is turn my voice notes on, my voice memos, and I'll press record, and I'll just record about 2 minutes of me basically freestyling. Singing, playing, going different places, trying different things. And then I'll play it back and I'll listen to it. I'll pick out kind of the better parts of it. Or if I like the whole thing, that's great. And And then I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it again. And then when I come to a place where I'm like, oh, okay, this is like a more finalized version of what it should be, then I'll go ahead and write it down and record a final version on my voice notes. And
I was just going to ask you, I was like, how do you like remember what you play? But
voice notes.
Yeah, voice notes.
You have to use them.
Yeah.
You have to. Or you will forget. Yeah.
Was it hard, like growing up too, just learning to read music?
I do not read music very well.
No.
Okay.
I say that I can definitely read music more than your average person off of the street. Like I can, if you go pick a random person, unless they've like somehow also have a musical background, I can read music by those standards. But I am not like a classically trained musician. I don't know everything to a T. I very much grew up learning chord-based theory instead of like note-based reading. And then as I've gotten older and kind of matured in my playing, that's when I figured out like, oh no, I have to sit down and work some of this out in my head if I want to play with bands, like if I want to go jam with people. And so I'm like slowly learning more and more. But I don't read music. I don't even put my songs. Like there's two ways of writing guitar songs. One of them is writing them down and putting the chords on top of them. And that's a very general way that people can read them. And the other way is going and putting like actual like notes on there. I don't do any of that really. And the musicians that I play with are really, really awesome. You can pretty much tell them like, hey, this song, it's in the key of E, and it's in 3/4 time, and they're great with, because they know music theory.
Yeah, they've heard it enough to where they know. That's cool.
Right.
That was just one of the things I've always like wondered, because my uncle, like I said, is a musician, so he always had like his favorite band's the Beatles all time. His all-time favorite band's the Beatles, and he loves Michael Jackson, and he played the piano as well. And he would always have like his book there, and I would just look at him like, what's that stuff even mean? And then you grow up and Drumline comes out, and then that was another thing. It's like he couldn't learn to read music, but he was amazing at playing like the snare, so to say. So I always wondered, because you're the first person that's an actual musician, to be on our show. So I always wondered like how hard it was to like actually read music.
Well, that I will say, it's kind of like a language.
Yeah.
If you can learn a different language, you can probably learn to read music.
Yeah, so kind of I'm going through your Instagram. I'm kind of seeing like what you're doing, posting content, performing, all that kind of good stuff. I guess like how is your setup? So are you like recording at home a lot, or are you like more in like a studio?
Oh yeah, no, that's all at home.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's at home. I guess I did mention I do have a past in art, like a history in art.
That's
so
right.
My main focus in school was actually photography, and like web design, graphic design, like all that kind of stuff. So I do think that, I'm grateful for the experience of that, because I have a little bit of advantage of just knowing how to do that at home, like not needing to outsource for those kind of things. And I don't have a perfect setup right now. There's lots of things I want to add to, like, I need to get some better lighting up in there a little bit. There's just like little
things that make it like a big difference.
Yeah. And you just like, people don't think it makes that big of a difference, but when you look at an Instagram post for the first time and you're deciding whether you're going to swipe up or not, like it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy to us, because like the more you do it, the more you realize like how little detail means so much.
Yes.
Like for us who've been doing it and like know what you're supposed to be looking for, it's all. You're like, I don't like that.
Skip.
But like the average person is like, oh, that's a cool picture. I like that.
Yeah.
But it's just when you know what you're looking for and know what you're doing, it's like, it's the little tedious things you don't like.
And there's just no one like, like when you're in the weeds too, and then like you see someone else that's doing something, you kind of have like a certain admiration for whatever they're doing, because it's like, I understand the commitment and the workload it takes for all of that. Random question, but how many like instruments do you own personally?
what? 6.
Okay.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Not cheap.
But I mean, they're not all. No, they're not all like. I have an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, a piano, a ukulele.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I have a like a set of those like bells. I don't know what they're called.
A tambourine?
No, they're these little bells, and each one of them plays a different note.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. I just don't know what it's called though.
Yeah, and then I own a harmonica, so that's the 6. It's not as crazy.
Would you get a violin or banjo? Or are you ever going to go on that route?
I'm 100% going to buy a banjo and or a mandolin. I haven't decided yet. I'm not gonna just buy a violin because a violin, when you play guitar and piano. You are in one field of kind of musical understanding. The stringed instruments take a little bit more training and practice. I have not had that, and I didn't grow up playing that, and I don't have the natural affinity to just like grab a violin and play a little bit the way I could with a mandolin or a banjo or something like that. So it's more of like you're talking violin, viola, bass, like those kind. I probably am not going to branch into myself just because I have to think about my time.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And like I don't have time to sit around and be amazing at that instrument when in reality, I'm going to play the guitar live every time, if not the piano. I'm never going to play the violin live.
And you can always I'm pretty sure in the music community, you can just meet someone who is a specialist at that and then collab with them and work with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to be so good.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the people we had on, he's more of like a pop person. He was one of my really good friends too. His name's Kuna Lakai. On one of his albums, he had somebody play the saxophone on his album. And she went crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another random question. Besides sound, what is the biggest difference between electric and acoustic? Is it just sound?
So it's the pickup, the way that it sounds is because of an acoustic it makes the sound because of the body itself. The music resonates within it because it's this hollow body with the strings. And then in order to hook it up live, you have to kind of run it through an EQ or something that's going to really push the sound out because it will just never give you that big, huge sound. That's actually why electric guitars were invented. The bands were getting bigger and they needed a bigger sound than what electric could give you. And so they came out with, I'm not a guitar guru, but around the time Fender came out with its little Telecaster, or I think around that time there were guitars being made, at least is what I'm trying to say, that put out these big sounds that were picked up electronically through the little, if you look at a electric guitar, there's these little knobs on, not knobs, but there's these little bridge things on them.
In the back? No,
on the front actually. And when the strings rattle against them, it picks up the sound.
Gotcha.
So some acoustic guitars are what we call acoustic electric, and they can be what we call they picked up, because you can pick up the sound and run it through something. But you're never going to get the same huge, big, loud sound as the electric guitar. Yeah. And
is that the little black thing that's on top of the drilled, I guess, put into the guitar for the acoustic?
Yeah, for the acoustic, yes. Okay. That part, yeah. And then when you run an instrument cable through it, it's picking up the sound that little box is picking up.
And I guess that's more for a smaller venue type-ish thing?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say smaller venue. You can play live with that if you have a really good sound person, but the more instruments you keep adding to your band, the more muddy and strange that acoustic sound is going to get, or you could just switch to an electric. That's why you see a lot of the bigger people, if they're up on stage, they're either playing with an electric or they're playing a stripped down version. Take Taylor Swift, for instance. Her guitar players are up there playing electric guitar, but then she comes up to play a stripped down set of one of her songs, and she can play on that acoustic, and it's totally fine because the sound is going to be fine because it's just her voice, her vocals, and the guitar.
It's basically when they go up and do their solo, nobody else on the stage but her.
Yeah. Right. And again, tons and tons of people literally say, screw that, we are going to use our our guitars up there. Willie Nelson, for instance, has a guitar that has a hole in it because he's played it for every single show for
That's cool.
however long, and he goes to a guitarist to go get it repaired every now and then, but there's like a literal gaping hole like into it, and not the one where it should be. You know what I mean? Like it's a whole lot to the side.
To the side, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just played with that same guitar his whole
That's
career.
cool.
That's super
I
cool.
like if I was a fan, I would like the solo act from the artist. Like it's just more personable, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting because it's definitely easier. Like I can just show up with my guitar and sing a set solo, and it's fun. But there is really, really nothing like the songs that you've written coming alive with a full band behind you. Like,
I bet it feels electric.
It's just a feeling of like everyone's doing a part and it's sounding so pretty, and it's kind of like what I imagined it could be up in my head, you know?
Yeah. Even though you came from like a music background, and I'm sure y'all were a little band when y'all were younger, y'all would play music and whatnot, but what was the feeling like when you first got on stage with like an actual band in front of a live audience?
That was actually very recently, because the entire time that I played in Waco, way back when, I was doing Singer-Songwriter, which is basically me up there with an acoustic electric, right? Acoustic guitar, singing my songs for like an hour and not with a band. There was a very few select times that I sang for a band, like for 1 or 2 songs, but my first like full set was actually in, I think, May. Recent, very recent, because we went to, or me and my friend, around that same time of December when I started my Instagram, we decided to do a band together. So I have my stuff, it's Evelyn Jackson, but then we have a band together called the Telltales. And we are what we call an always touring band. So we're always either going to here or Monterey to play some songs. And that was my first time ever. And it was great. It was like, that's the feeling though that I was trying to explain. Like that's why it's better than acoustic, because it's like all these people making sounds together that sound good, and it's this energy that's bigger and brighter, and the crowd's interacting, and you can talk with your musicians on stage, and it's just a whole different feeling than being up there alone.
Yeah. Why Monterey?
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
Oh yeah, so my bandmate in the Telltales, her name is Jen Fragonard, and she is a musician from Monterey, but she also is my best friend and went to college with me at Baylor.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
So we were just hanging out one time around Christmas time for just a visit, and we're like, hey, you're doing the music thing. I'm a musician. I want to do the music thing. Like, why don't we just make this little band, like this little side project together? And and then we both run our Instagram. We have a Telltales Instagram, and we just do it when we can. And it's not a all the time thing, because she has her own band and I have my own band. Yeah. And when we can get to it, we do, and it's always such a blast.
I bet that, because I mean, he's my best friend. I'm doing this with him.
Yeah, that's cool.
So like to be on stage with your best friend, I bet that's a blast.
100%. The best thing about it is like the banter, because we're literally known for getting up on stage and just kind of like making fun of each other on stage, like cool. Not in a bad way, but
just friendly banter.
Cool.
Yeah.
Friendly banter. We're great at it, because
that's awesome. I think too. I almost lost my train of thought. I guess like, with the Telltales, would you guys like make an album together, or is that in the works or anything like that?
Yeah, so we don't get a lot of time, because she lives in Monterey, California, and I live here. We don't get a lot of time to write together, but almost every time that we're together, we write together. So it's a weird way to say that. But we have about 3 original Telltale songs already. And then when we do a Telltales show, it consists of our originals and then some of my originals and some of her originals. So how we kind of pose it is my originals performed by the Telltales, her originals performed by the Telltales. That's pretty cool.
And then like you guys have songs together.
And then we have songs together, but all of it is just a culmination of the art and music that the two of us have created.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So since you studied photography, web design, graphic design, like how much has that helped you with not only Telltales, but like your own music and songwriting, because we kind of see the way that, like, as an artist, you have to go about things, whether that be cover art or, you know, content or whatever.
Right.
Like, that's such a valuable skill that not only that you know how to do that, but you like went to school for it. So you really know like what to look for, what's not good, what can you apply. Like, that probably saved you so much money, really, just from
Right.
like outsourcing that stuff. So how has that helped you?
Infinitely. Yeah, infinitely. Like, I can't even begin to say, like, I actually probably don't even know to the extent that it's helped me, because there's just, especially like if you're talking about with the Telltales, we know in advance that we're going to need content for the time that we're not together. So when we are together, we'll go and shoot content, and we know like, okay, 10 minutes in this location and these types of poses. Okay, move. Like we use our time really wisely because we know what the outcome is going to be. And we also, I already know about lighting situations. I already know about what's going to work and what's not going to work. So as far as that kind of stuff, it's just coming naturally. So that is super, super helpful. As far as the web design and all of that, also extremely helpful. I think that there is a point in web design for me that I'm going to outsource, because like it
does become a...
It becomes a point of like, I can design it and make it absolutely beautiful. I don't necessarily know though all the SSO stuff. Like, you know, I don't necessarily know that really well. I was just taught the design aspects of it. But then also when you go into like, oh, what if I want merch, and how do I set up my cart, and how do I make this a better user friendly experience for my guests? That part, I don't know. I don't have the like knowledge on that necessarily. I bet I could figure it out, but I might rather pay for it based on my time.
Exactly.
Right? So there's certain things that are going to be worth my time to do myself, and certain things that aren't.
Yeah. Go ahead. Because that's something that we've learned too, like with what we're doing. Like, we have become pretty good, decent editors at like what we're producing. And we can, like, for example, like our short form clips, like we could do a lot of that stuff, but it's nice to be able to know someone that can, you know, help you out with that. Because the bigger our business is starting to grow, the more aspects, the more, you know, tasks we're starting to take on. Me and Carlos's time and CJ's time, and then Albert is our main videographer. Like, we could be doing something else, networking, meeting somebody, shooting the content, or even just like learning business at a higher level, instead of like wasting, you know, not wasting, but like using like 2 or 3 hours to make like 5 or 6 clips, like, which is going to propel the brand. But you kind of got to know when it's like, all right, I'd rather just pay for it. And as much as it does suck, you know, so
100%. And I think that if like you're starting off as a new musician, that is literally for every single thing ever out there. Like, if you're at my stage where I am, I'm not going to go hire a publicist right now. I'm not big enough to hire a publicist, like a PR. I would be pouring more money than what it's worth. So for right now, if I'm going to be reaching out to podcasts, I'm going to be reaching out to media companies. I'm going to have to do all of that back work myself. Because it's not worth it yet. I'm not making enough. Like, if you look at it like a business, which it very, very much is a business, even though it's this beautiful artistic expression that is music. Like,
it's definitely a business.
It's a business, right? So there's some things like that I'm not ready for yet, and I have to do it by myself right now. That's part of the grinding. And like, I am thankful that I can do the photography. I can do everything else, like myself. But there's some stuff I have to go teach myself also. Like, you know, you got to go teach yourself and learn it until you can get yourself to the place where you're at a solid time to give it over to a team, or give it over to someone that can do it more professionally. Yeah.
How important is, because like I said, we've had on a lot of rappers, so like, we, at least in the rap hip hop scene, it's important. But how important is marketing and like y'all scene?
I think marketing is important for every single musician out there. I think branding is so important, like knowing what your brand is, what you're trying to say, what you're going to convey, and then specific branding for specific things. Like, you know, for the single that I have coming out, that's probably going to be slightly different branding because I'm pushing something really big for this one little period of time, right? And then I have more artistic expression to be like, okay, let's change a little bit. Let's swerve. Now you see this with all these really big artists. It's just kind of how it goes. Like Taylor Swift is a really good example because we all know her, but she has all of her different albums, and for each of her different albums, there's so much of a different feel to that album that her fans are able to dress in a costume that is for that era. That's the whole thing that came about of like the Eras tour, right? Yeah. Because she did specific, calculated, amazing branding for each single one of her albums. So I think it goes so much further than just like, I'm going to market by putting a lot of stuff out there. Like, no, it's so much deeper than that. It's like the ideas behind things and why you're putting them out there and like the story that each one tells. I don't know.
How do you go about marketing yourself?
I would say that at this point right now, I'm in a building phase, right? So I don't really have the luxury of just going off the wall in some interesting creative direction. Like I have to keep everything kind of on a singular brand right now just because I need to do that until I become a more noticeable name.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So right now my kind of marketing strategy is to keep things in a way that people will recognize. And I think you had kind of mentioned earlier, like the stuff that I put on Instagram, I'm working like more and more each time to make my content like, oh, that's clearly like something Evelyn Jackson put out. You know?
For sure.
But it takes a while to kind of find your voice. And again, that particular Instagram account I've only been doing since 10 months.
Yeah, and you have like great growth. Like already almost having 2,000 followers like a year into it. And really not putting a whole lot of music out like to stream is like kind of crazy to see. And that kind of brings me to a point I've been thinking about is with like country artists. Cause like Morgan Wallen is going on tour again for his last album, but it came out this year, but he's going to retour the album again next year. So it's like country artists, mainly country artists, and even like R&B, pop artists, indie artists. They're not really releasing yearly like a rapper is. Like I feel like rappers release a lot, unless they're like the big artists. But most of the time, you see them they're getting like a project out like once a year. Like once a year is like you're active. If you're not doing once a year, then you're not really like active, essentially. But you see like these other genres, they're releasing like maybe every 3 years, every 4 years, and I think a lot of that is more so of like the work like you're putting in, like the work you're saying like you're putting in, since it's more streamlined and there's way more thought to it and more effort. And not saying like those genres don't have that, but I think that kind of resonates is why the music can get put out and then be out for so long and like have people still listen to it years later, as opposed to like a rapper. It's like, okay, I heard this album, kind of ready for something else. And I think they kind of like in a sense, it's kind of ruined like music because you're not really, like your favorite artist is probably going to drop once a year in that genre. But like someone like George Strait back in the day, or like Luke Combs now, or Morgan Wallen, like, they're like, dang, I'm going to get, and that might also be due to the fact that they're releasing like 30 songs. Like Morgan Wallen's album has like 30 songs. So maybe that's why they're not releasing yearly. They're releasing like every 3 or 4 years. But I don't know. That's something that's like kind of resonated with me as like we've been talking, just thinking about why these other genres release yearly. But like, it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you are right. There's like a lot of production and stuff that goes into it. It does take a lot of time. But I also think that has a little bit to do with the fact that once you have gotten maybe noticeable or recognizable enough, your fans are willing to wait 3 years and still be excited when you drop another album, right? But with smaller like indie artists, if you wait 3 years to put out a new album, they're going to be thinking that you're a new band.
Yeah.
Like unless they're your 10 diehard friends.
Or what you put out went crazy too.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And so honestly, if you are in a building phase, that would not be the move. It would be to put out as much music as often as possible until it sticks.
Definitely.
At least as far from like if you go listen to like industry podcasts and people talking about new independent music. Now, this is not the same for people on labels because they have their own marketing teams, and they're going to pay for it. Like, genuinely, they're going to pay for it with their whatever they earn. But for the independent artists, at least, the move right now, if you are growing and if you are you want to reach that next level or something, you gotta get in the studio and put out as much music as possible. Now make it good. Don't sacrifice like quantity
over quality.
Quality for quality.
Yeah.
You got it. Y'all got it.
Definitely.
But you will do better if you put out more music.
Yeah. Because that's a lot of things too. Like, we have a lot of artist friends and we're just like, just release your stuff. Because if you're not, people are going to forget, and it's like, and then getting creative, make content, do behind the scenes, do all that stuff that are, especially now, I feel like if people have more of a personal connection with you, then they're going to want to just even check it out just because like, oh, this person, they make cool content. So I'm super curious to see their music. Oh, this is what they do to make this song. Like they have to do all these steps. I definitely want to listen to the song now. So I definitely think that's something to keep in mind because just from us learning, like we're not musicians and artists ourselves, but we just kind of have picked up on little things from each artist we've talked to or interviewed and, just trying to help out where we can. Like, I feel like that's like super essential to getting someone out of Austin, as an artist. Cause I feel like that's not really a common thing. Maybe like in your genre more so that as opposed to like the rapper genre. Cause I know, like Foo Fighters blew up here and like,
really?
Yeah, at like ACL or like South by Southwest. They were like kind of known, but like they blew up from like one of those festivals. And then cool. I think, it's, Caged Elephant maybe. Yeah, it's like some people like that, So with you like doing songwriting and like writing songs for people, or not for people, that's my question. But has people hit you up to like write songs, like help with this or get writing credits? Like, have you dabbled into that at all?
No one has done that specifically except for rappers.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I've never had like a fellow singer-songwriter be like, come write this song with me, except for the ones I've written with my friend. But I've actually had multiple rappers reach out like, hey, can you just sing a hook? Hey, will you write a hook? Hey, I like that you can write. I guess it's like a specific thing for them to be able to, someone who's able to write the hook and then sing it well is like pivotal for their song. Because sometimes a good hook can make the whole song.
Yeah, a lot of the times too, honestly. Yeah, that's such a valuable skill. Are you doing that a lot?
So I will say it's hard for me to agree to that for people just because if I go and I write a hook and then I give it back to them and they are free to rap whatever they want over it, I may not be 100% on board with the content of what their bars are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
About, yeah.
And so I also don't want to diminish anyone's creativity. And so it would have to be a situation in which I have heard the music from them and they have established a history with me of talking about things that I care about or that I feel like give purpose and aren't just like party songs. Because that's very much not what I write and it's not aligned with like me.
Yeah, and that's good that you got to make a decision because I'm pretty sure like people are like, oh, well, I'll pay you this or whatever. But at the end of the day, if it's not, because you're an artist yourself. So it's like whatever you tie in yourself to, that's going to resonate,
Right.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and honestly, it's not even a thing about like payment. Like honestly, for that specific situation, if it was a rapper who very much I loved their content of their songs, I would 100% do that for free because I'm compared to writing a whole song, writing a hook, and then going and recording it over a pre-recorded beat would take me like an hour. Like I have no problems going and doing that quickly, and I would do it like all the time. It would be fun. I love rap music. It would be fun to collaborate.
So
Sorry.
So I guess that leads me to like the follow-up question. Would you just like write someone a song and like not be on it though? Like if someone was like, hey, I am okay at writing my own music, but like you're probably better, but I like want the song to be for me. Would you like would you write a song for someone?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, or even like, hey, can you take this song and kind of like
just like maybe
doctor it up
someone
a
gives you a
little
couple
bit.
ideas, or they even have a song pre-written and you go rewrite it, or you go write it all the way.
I would definitely do that. So
Okay.
that is definitely something within my career I can see myself doing.
Yeah.
A lot of the big musicians. Do you know who Ryan Tedder is?
Yes.
So he's the for One Republic. He's the
Okay.
main guy.
Yeah.
But also, if you go and look at all the songs that he's written for the music industry, it's massive.
Yeah.
The guy writes. I could see myself writing for lots and lots of people, but I do know that I have to go into it with the mindset of I'm writing this for someone else.
Yeah.
Like this is not going to be my song. Because then it becomes so personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what I don't know. Like, I feel like there's so many different ways to get into the music industry, and maybe like writing songs for people could get you in it, like, you know, to a certain status quicker, you know, because it's like, oh, well, kind of like a Kanye approach. Like, obviously it's a little bit different because he's a producer, but even him, like producing for all these people, and then it's like, all right, I want to be an artist myself. He kind of has a footprint. It might have been a little bit more difficult for him, but kind of the same thing. Or you have people that are super well known, like Rick Rubin has been on like everyone's stuff production wise and whatnot. So it is cool to see like, oh, like this person, I didn't even know this person did all this, or like Justin Timberlake backup dancer, like all that. I feel like there's just all kind of different ways to just kind of get into it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm down for any way that it falls. You know,
no
like
doubt.
any of that kind of stuff is fine. I've never though. I actually don't know what the process is of like submitting songs for other people, like the whole Nashville type scene where there's a bunch of like writers' rooms and things like that. I actually don't know how to go about getting into that. I've never like researched it that much. But I would imagine that it has similar roadblocks as becoming an artist themselves. Like you still have to like get your music out there somehow. And right now, all the music that I have to show them is music that I'm not willing to sell.
No, for sure. For sure.
So I don't really know. There's like a roadblock there. I'm like, I don't know. I would do it if someone came to me and was like, can you write this song? Like for sure. That would be great. But I'm not going to let go of my songs to be sung by popular people.
Yeah,
and
then you just get
hands.
diminished, you know, like, and then you're on there, but it's like, you got to go look for it. Like, it's like, oh, like written by Evelyn Jackson. You
Exactly. Especially when I possess the abilities to do it myself. And I'd rather perform my songs.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, while we're talking about yourself, just tell us a little about your single that's coming out, or any other music going forth that's coming out.
Yes, I have a single coming out on October 6th. It will be dropping on all streaming services. You'll even be able to find it on TikTok. Snapchat, I think.
Yeah.
It's dropping on everything, yeah.
Yeah, got to.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to be able to, like, if someone wants to find it, they need to be able to find
Everywhere.
I didn't know you could like.
I didn't know you could do
music
that,
on
but
Snapchat.
yeah, that's
cool.
That's cool though.
it. Snapchat, sorry, this is a little bit of a side note, but Snapchat has a specific, you have to, like, be very, very clear up front that this is 100% your song and it is in no way copyrighted. Like, so there's a little bit of a different way that you have to go about it to drop it onto Snapchat, but
That's cool.
same thing with that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
it's
cool.
called This Isn't Love, Run.
Okay.
Run is in parentheses.
Okay.
But yeah, no, this is a song I wrote about, say 6 months ago or so. And it's just about this kind of like inner battle in your mind about knowing that like a relationship is not for you. Like it's not the one. And there's things about it that are like wrong, or maybe not even wrong, but just not right for the rest
for you,
for the rest of your life, or for you, or for your mind, or for your soul, or
Yeah.
even for your body, like everything,
Yeah.
you know, all these things that there's these reasons, you know, the reasons we come up with that things aren't right for us. But then also just it also just feels really good, and it feels really nice, and it feels like safe and secure and like something that you've wanted for a long time. But then at the same time, there's just these things that you can't let go of. And I was kind of in that state in my mind, and so I wrote a song about it.
No, for
That's
sure.
how music
Yeah.
is.
No, that's for sure. That's yeah. I'm excited to hear that because I definitely understand like stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's how music is. It's just going back to what he said about people releasing their music. I feel like you should release it because that's what you feel in that time.
Yeah.
So like, if it is time to come release an album, and you want to put that song, like, I don't really feel that anymore, just because that's not the time of life you're in, I guess you could say. Because one of the artists we like, his name is Mike, and his music, the time of when we listen to it, that's why his music resonates with us so much, because what we're going through.
Right.
And that's also what like draws you closer to an artist too, because they can drop and it's like, that's what you're going through at that moment. You're like, that's my song.
And that's why they become, I feel like, your favorites, because it's like the time you're going through, or even just like the life experiences you're in. You're just like, dang, like they can always resonate with me because I've just, it hits different. And nostalgia, it's like sentimental to your being.
They're taking you through an emotional journey
Yeah.
with them, which is super vulnerable, which then allows you to feel the emotions that they are putting out there, and puts them into words in a way that you're like, oh, I didn't even know I could feel like that.
Yeah,
Like,
you really feel the song.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so many of
I
my
think
favorites
that's
like that.
one of my really good friends. Her favorite artist right now is Mitski. That's her name, Mitski.
I don't know who that is.
She's an indie pop.
Okay. We'll look it up.
I think she's pretty big. But like that's what just the time of place she's in right now, like she just resonates with her very well.
Yeah, that's why I think like Olivia Rodrigo right now is killing it. But she can relate to all the like high schoolers right now and what they're going through. I can jam to a few of her songs, but a few of them are a little bit too like
She also like looks like
it's a little bit juvenile part of music.
For sure.
But that's what Taylor Swift was like at her age, and now Taylor Swift is 33 and making like full on albums about like losing a 7-year relationship, and I was like, okay, now that's something I can relate to.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say I was going to make a joke because you said, like you got to put it out now because that's what you're feeling. And I'm like, that is the main reason I hold on to songs sometimes.
Really?
Because I don't want certain situations to be so evident about what I was writing about. Like
so you
maybe
want, like, some time
protecting
to
someone's
pass.
feelings or like
No doubt. No doubt.
being just a little bit more sensitive about like, hey, I'm putting this out, but
that's how one
it's
of
not so
our
fresh.
other friends is. I don't know if he made music about it, but there's his name's Difference, and there are things that he wanted to express, but he couldn't because no matter what way he put it, the people would know it's about them.
Yeah.
Even if you use different names or whatever the whole thing is.
Yeah, it's just no way to know. I went through a divorce 2 years ago.
Okay.
Two-ish years ago. And I have lots and lots of songs. I mean, tons that I've been writing, like I said, over the last 15 years. And I'd always imagined a certain group of songs being my first album, and they were mostly comprised of songs that I wrote like early 20s. And then after I went through this, I just started writing like ferociously. Like I was writing songs like every other day, just like processing all of these feelings. And now that I'm going to make an album, I'm actually going to skip over all of those earlier year songs and put them out on an album that's going to come later. And I'm moving on to do this, what is like more fresh and more sensitive to me, basically. And so my whole album, like it's not going to come out all at once. It's going to come out kind of in singles, but at the culmination of the album, it will pretty much tell you a story,
that's dope.
or my feelings.
So I was going to ask that, like if you would ever even do an EP of those songs under an alias or something. And it's also hard for you to put that out as well because you haven't released much music so for that to be your first music,
right?
People be like, oh, okay.
I'm not worried about it. People are going to connect or not connect with no matter what I put out or when. And I'm not going to put it out under an alias because I kind of already am an alias. Like, because
sure.
I do have a stage name. But so I'm just going to release it all. And I've also already had a conversation with like the other party to say, hey, by the way, I'm putting out this music and please don't take it personally because how I felt in that moment in that song, like imagine being like in your saddest point or your maddest point or your most like confused point and you go write down a snapshot of your feelings in that moment.
No, for sure.
I don't still feel that way.
Yeah.
Like I'm not mad sitting here. I'm not like crying sitting here, but it is a good way for me to remember my feelings and journal through them, right? And so I'm like, just don't take it personal, like, or just don't listen.
No, no, sure. One of our friends, the one you mentioned earlier, came and he didn't go through a divorce, but she basically called off the engagement. Okay. And he made like a whole EP about like his feelings towards her and like what he was feeling in that moment of time. Yeah. That's why I feel like making an EP about it. But you said you would make like an album later.
Oh yeah, and to answer your question for that, then sorry. I would make an EP about it, except for that I have about 15 songs that I want on the album. So it's 15 songs is already a little bit longer than typical albums, and definitely it's just like not EP material. So I'm just gonna keep adding to it till I feel like it's a complete story, and then we'll see how that goes, how that reacts.
I mean,
that's pretty much it for me. I know you said you wanted to ask us if you saw a question. So.
I was just saying this podcast. It's so great. I would love to at some point, and I don't have time for it right now, but at some point start some sort of like podcast to highlight the like up and coming artists in the Austin area.
No
I was
doubt.
just wondering, like, do y'all have any advice? Like, how did you get started reaching out to people, or like, what did you focus on?
I'll let him answer that. The advice I can give you is basically just do it. There's no wrong time. You just got to do it. It's scary at first. For you, it might be a little bit different because you are a musician, so you're used to being in front of a microphone. You're used to being in front of cameras. You're used to talking to people. So it's probably a little different for you. But it was for us nerve-wracking at first because it was our first time in front of a camera. It was our first time in front of a microphone. It was our first time releasing something to the public that like we made. But at the end of the day, you just got to do it. It's fun. It's exciting. There's ups and downs, but that's the beauty of it. Whenever, same thing with writing, whenever things get hard, just keep going.
Yeah.
Thanks. I guess like the way like we started reaching out to people and stuff was me and him both had like a pretty good network of people, and we just kind of started interviewing people that were initially close to us doing something cool and unique. Okay. And then over time, like just the more and more guests we had on, the more and more collaboration, it just kind of got out organically. And even like us, like same kind of deal. It's like you see it somewhere, you might be doing something yourself and you're like, oh, okay, I want to get on that. And then we just also reach out too, because we're constantly trying to shoot. Like we want to be as consistent as possible and always releasing. So if someone, wants to be a guest, like we're always down to have whoever on and, interview them and talk to them. And like he was saying, like just starting is probably the most important thing you can do, and just finding the time when it's right. Like the right time will make itself presentable. And we also are having a studio in 2024. So if you ever need a place to shoot it at, or whenever you get going, like we'd love to have you as a guest there. So
we're also planning to have some kind of like recording spot there as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Because Cayman, who we've been mentioning, is going to be a business partner of ours, and we're going to build out a studio not only for himself but for all the artists we've met through this journey.
Oh, so cool. I get what you're saying. So like recording for like music or whatever. Oh, that is very cool.
Yeah, so if you ever want to pop by, collab, I mean, we plan on doing specific like events there with artists and like pitting people together, because I feel like a lot of the times artists are kind of like scared to reach out to each other and whatnot. So I feel like if if everyone knows us as like a central nucleus, they can be like, oh, like, well, we know Opinionated and we've been on their show. And then like we have like events for artists, even shooting content for artists. So we want to get more into like the documentation style version of making specific content pieces for artists. So all kinds of stuff just to, you know, help everyone out and, you know, make more.
And we're on the same path as you. We love music, and that's for pretty much everybody, that's probably the most therapeutic thing for them. That's what they go to. So having all these artists on, also doing content ourselves, we see how hard it is. And then also realizing, at least on the rapping side, no one's really made it out and made a name for Austin for that sake of it. So we just kind of want to help up and coming artists and make Austin known for a lot of talent that feel like isn't recognized, because there is a lot of talent here.
So much. So there's so many cool people doing cool things here. Yeah.
I guess one last thing for me, who are some of your favorite, it's a two-part question, who are some of your favorite bands, solo musicians that you like to listen to between all genres?
Currently, in this exact moment, say that like the Lumineers, the Head and the Heart, John Mayer, First Aid Kit are all people that I jam heavily. When I was younger, One Republic, Coldplay. Let's see. Brandi Carlile, I mentioned her earlier, is one of my favorites. There's this Americana artist. Her name is Bella White. She's a very twangy voice. It's awesome, but her songwriting is like exquisite. I went to a First Aid Kit show at Stubbs here in Austin on the 13th, and there was a person who opened for her named Courtney Marie Andrews, and I was so blown away by her set. I thought it was awesome, and so now I've like had her stuff on repeat. Hosier. Freaking Chef's Kiss.
Heck yeah.
But, yeah, those are just some name drops.
Who are some people you want to do music with?
With? Oh, what scope are we talking here?
Whatever scope you want.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It could be your own genre that you like, indie folk or Americana, or if you want to branch off to something else and do something like in a different genre.
Yeah. I would love to do a duet style song co-written with an artist kind of similar to like Zach Bryan or Noah Kahan, or like one of those kind of like very soulful songwriters that are also kind of in my style and genre, and that our voices would blend really. Like that's something that would be really, really cool. As far as like super crazy dreams, if I had one dream in the world, it would be for John Mayer to produce an album for me. I'm like, I know you're not even like doing this. That's not your business. Like you don't go off and produce for people all the time. But like, if I could just get your creativity like stamped on top of mine on this album, I would be in heaven.
He's a genius.
I would be in heaven.
Him and Ed Sheeran, they're geniuses.
Yeah. Also
they
great.
know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that's it for me. I mean, this has been a great convo. Like, I loved it. Like, just learned so much too, and then super rooting for you heavily, especially like just hearing your journey and then like hearing like how you go about doing things, and even like, you know, first connection, like very organic, very genuine. Like, always love meeting people for the first time, and I'm sure we'll be working together in the future. So
yeah, for sure.
I enjoyed having you on, like you said. Now I'm rooting for you. One of my favorite things in music is like live instruments. So I love the fact that you did a live instrument song. That's really dope. And I like seeing that too. I mean, I haven't seen much of it because I don't really go to concert or anything, but like, I don't know, you just feel it. I don't know how to describe it, but you just feel it, and it feels good. One time, I was at the LSU Texas game, 2019. Was it Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Ooh.
He performed at the
Nice.
halftime, and I was like, That's fire.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
man
was
makes you
really
feel
good.
things.
Yes,
That's
he
for
does.
sure.
And then just going, I mean, obviously I'm not there, but just going back and watching like Jimi Hendrix, Slash.
Yes. When they go off, it's
When
like,
they go off, it's just it's especially like for Jimmy at that time, like that was so new.
Right.
And then you just to hear that, and you just like hear him go crazy on solos. I'm just like, yeah, that feels good. One last question, because we like to ask every guest this, just to put it out there. Goals that you for the last part of the year that you want to hit.
goals. All right. Well, I'm about to hit the ground running kind of on this little campaign that is releasing a single. There's a lot of work that goes on behind it, more than just saying like, hey, it's out, to make it successful.
Yeah.
So that's like one of my short-term goals. My next one is having a very successful single release party. So
Okay.
That'd be cool.
we have a show at Captain Quack's in the Sound Space in Austin. Is off of Manchac, I believe, on October 27th. And there's going to be 3 bands playing. So the Soul Sirens are a female duo. They're beautiful harmonies. They're going to start us off for the night. And then a band who's been around Austin for a while called the Soapboxers.
Okay.
Oh,
I've heard of them.
Yeah. So they go on next, and then I'll be doing my thing with my full band that night. Tickets are only like $8. They're already on sale.
Okay.
So
What day is this?
this is the October 27th.
Is that on a
That's
Saturday?
a Saturday.
Saturday?
I think it's a Friday.
Friday.
I think
Yeah.
it's a Friday.
Yeah,
night.
because 28th is.
I can't go.
Oh, is that on the 27th?
Yeah, I
Batch's
just talked to
wedding.
him today.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, yeah.
Yeah, we have
Can
a
you
wedding
postpone
to
his
go to.
wedding?
Yeah.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
But I was gonna say that just whenever you have a live show, let us know.
Yeah,
'cause
let
I'd
us
love
know.
to check you out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
I'll send it
You have
over.
a beautiful voice. Whatever song, I can't remember the name of it. Whatever song you had on your link tree.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That song was really good.
Yeah, and then our videographer, he's always trying to, get photos of artists and stuff. He loves doing stuff.
Hey,
So,
I need a music video.
Yeah. So, we plan on whatever you need help with. Like, I'm sure we can make something happen
Heck
and
yeah.
get some content for you whenever you perform. Like you said, whenever you have events, just let us know and we'll.
Oh, that would be
definitely-
awesome. We'll talk after, but
Yeah.
I'll hit you up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Again, thank you coming on, taking
Yeah.
time out your day. It was a pleasure talking to you. I enjoyed it a lot. It was nice to have another genre on and another artist. And it, like you said, not to take away from like the hip hop rap side of things, but makes you appreciate this side of music more because there's just so much more that goes into it. It's a lot harder to do, so to say, rather than just going on. I can't remember any of the names right now, but one of the softwares that you use to make music and just put it on the instrument in there when someone's right here next to you playing it.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do that. But again, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hopefully this isn't the last time. Hopefully next time you've released several albums and you're going on tour.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, thank you for taking time in your day and stopping by and helping us out too. And it's been a pleasure. So
Yeah, thank you all so much for having me on.
Yeah.
This
Of
was so
course,
great.
of course.
Just a fun chat with
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah,
Come
no
chat it
doubt.
up anytime.
And that's the thing with with podcasting. It's just a conversation at the end of the day. That's all
Yeah.
it is. Just having conversation.
For sure.
yeah, so cool. Well, we can find you everywhere at.
Yeah, so my most active place is on Instagram. So it's gonna be it's.evelyn.jackson. I don't know why I had to make it that long and confusing, but it's its.evelyn.jackson. And then sorry, I got a cough thingy. So, but yeah, that's my most active platform. But from that platform, you can find my link tree, and it has all my other socials and all my other everything. And very soon, I will have a website out that I've been working on, but I've been pouring my heart and soul into designing it. And so it's taken a little bit, but it'll be up soon too.
Sweet, cool.
Sweet. Go find her everywhere. We'll have all her links in the description down below and on the screen, as y'all know. Go listen to her. Go give her. She's family. Go give her a play. Great music, great, beautiful voice. I really do mean that. You really do have a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
But that'll do it from the boys over here at Opinionated. We'll catch y'all guys next time. Peace.
Peace.